I understand that you are an executive of the wellness company, and that the wellness company has made money from the sale of supplements and other, quote, spike detox products. Is that correct?
I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of the Wellness Company, which is a national company started in 2022. It delivers healthcare, so it's a company of doctors. Also provides nutraceuticals and supplements, fully prescribes drugs across the range, health education materials.
How much money has your company made from the sale of spike detox products? Your company, that company also makes ivermectin? Ivermectin?
The company can prescribe, the doctors can prescribe ivermectin, they can prescribe Paxlovid, molnupiravir, they can prescribe any drug within the pharmacopoeia.
How much have been the profits from the sale of that drug since 2020?
Well, it's prescribed, so whatever pharmacy delivers it, like CVS or Walgreens, they would derive any profit.
I'm talking about profits for the company.
It can't, because they prescribe drugs to pharmacies. The pharmacies are the ones that people pay to get the medication.
Do you have a personal share in profits from the wellness company?
Yeah, I receive a set salary. I don't receive any percent share of profits.
Has your board certification ever been revoked?
I resigned from the American Board of Internal Medicine November 11th of 2024 due to an ongoing dispute over the term you've used, misinformation, which is a propaganda term. It's a leverage term. So I had a dispute. I resigned from them. Listen, I'm one of the most published people in the American Board of Internal Medicine. They rely on my research for a lot of their board materials.
And I want to ask you a kind of yes or no question, Governor Green. HHS apparently is making plans to change the way that vaccines are approved, requiring placebo trials for vaccines that have been used previously for decades. In other words, the clinical trials on vaccines already in use will involve placebo trials. I understand a lot of doctors feel that this practice would be unethical. Do you agree?
Yes, that will be unethical.
Thank you.
And it will be unethical because we already have demonstration that people get protection. So it's unethical to give them a placebo and watch kids die of meningitis or diphtheria or polio. That's why it's unethical.
It's not unethical to study. It's not unethical to research. It's not unethical to run trials, but to possibly put people at risk when a particular vaccine has already been proven safe and effective and has been in use for decades, that would be unethical.
Correct, Senator.
Thank you. I want to ask Dr. McCullough, I understand that you are an executive of the wellness company, and that the wellness company has made money from the sale of supplements and other, quote, spike detox products. Is that correct?
I'm the Chief Scientific Officer of the Wellness Company, which is a national company started in 2022. It delivers healthcare, so it's a company of doctors. Also provides nutraceuticals and supplements, fully prescribes drugs across the range, health education materials.
How much money has your company made from the sale of spike detox products?
And the company has innovative products like spike detoxification based on peer-reviewed studies demonstrating the scientific underpinnings for a combined use of three over-the-counter nutraceuticals, which are nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. You can buy them anywhere on the internet if you want them. So the company I don't have the company's balance sheet with me, but I can tell you its overall valuation right now is about $50 million with an M. And that pales in comparison to the tens of billions of dollars that the government spent on vaccines that have caused great harm. At the Wellness Company, we are trying to help the country recover, whereas further vaccination is putting the country into a big hole in terms of damaging their health care.
And your
Audience, please.
your company, that company also makes ivermectin? Ivermectin?
The company can prescribe, the doctors can prescribe ivermectin, they can prescribe Paxlovid, molnupiravir, they can prescribe any drug within the pharmacopoeia.
How much have been the profits from the sale of that drug since 2020?
Well, it's prescribed, so whatever pharmacy delivers it, like CVS or Walgreens, they would derive any
I'm
profit
talking
from
about profits for
ivermectin.
the company.
It can't, because they prescribe drugs to pharmacies. The pharmacies are the ones that people pay to get the
What
medication.
is do you have a personal share in profits from the wellness company?
Yeah, I receive a set salary. I don't receive any percent share of profits, and I have a very minor equity stake in the company. I work there part-time. I'm full-time in practice. I'm also the president of the McCullough Foundation.
But you do share in the revenue and profits.
I receive
let
a
me-
set
let me
salary.
ask you,
So that's
and
it's
again,
an
I wanna-
incorrect assertion. I get a set salary. I do not have any sharing of any revenue that comes in,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Has your board certification ever been revoked?
I resigned from the American Board of Internal Medicine November 11th of 2024 due to an ongoing dispute over the term you've used, misinformation, which is a propaganda
your-
term. It's
your
a
board's-
leverage term. So I had a dispute. I resigned from them. Listen, I'm one of the most published people in the American Board of Internal Medicine. They rely on my research for a lot of their board materials.
So
And then-
you're no longer board certified?
I'm board certified by the National Association of Physicians and Surgeons. There's many different organizations that provide board certification.
Which one did you resign from?
The American Board of Internal Medicine, after 40 years of a perfect clinical track record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A perfect example of the vilification of people that had a second opinion. By the way, it's always my understanding in medicine that if you had a serious health condition, you go seek a second opinion, because nobody has all the answers. Every human body is different, but that was an unfortunate line of questioning. Mr. Siri, do you want to describe why it's appropriate for HHS Secretary Kennedy to actually do some research on vaccines? I'm quite sure, tell me if I'm wrong here, but when Mr. Kennedy pressed Fauci for the random control blind placebo trials on childhood vaccines, oh yeah, we've done all kinds of them. Couldn't produce one. I know in testimony we've had other officials of the CDC or FDA ask the same question. They just can't come up with them. So can you set the record straight in terms of what studies have actually been done on the vaccines on the childhood schedule?
Absolutely. So in my 66-page submission, I set out every single routine childhood vaccine on the CDC schedule today with sources citing to the FDA underlying clinical trial documents that confirm. So if you dispute this term, you got to argue with the FDA. Not a single routine childhood vaccine on the current schedule, other than the Covaxin licensed for 12 and older, was licensed based on a clinical trial in which the control group received a placebo. And if the control group received another vaccine, that vaccine was also not licensed based on a placebo-controlled trial. That is all set forth in here. It is categorically accurate, a placebo meaning an inert
By the way,
substance.
do you want to just talk about some of the most egregious examples? One I found, and this is off of a blog, or I mean off of a podcast, so, but I'm assuming it's true because it hasn't been disputed. Apparently, the approval for the aluminum adjuvant in vaccines was done off of a trial with 4 rabbits. And
aluminum adjuvant
one of the rabbits died. They killed the other ones after 28 days and found all kinds of aluminum in the body, but they approved it anyway. So good to go. Is that true as well?
Aluminum adjuvants are not. They're used to induce autoimmunity in lab animals. They are part of the active ingredients. They're not separately approved as their own standalone product. Injecting a child with just aluminum adjuvant would be entirely unethical because it has no therapeutic value in and of itself, unless you want to treat them like a lab animal.
I'm not
to
suggesting
autoimmune.
do that. I'm just saying, but that's what it was approved for use in vaccines is.
As far as I'm aware, actually, it's never been approved, aluminum adjuvant standing alone.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not aware of any such approval. But to answer your question, why? Why look at the safety of of childhood vaccines? And the answer, I think, is this. We should be looking at all environmental insults because we are in the midst right now of a pandemic. There's been a lot of talk. We got to be ready for the next pandemic. We have a pandemic right now. It's a pandemic of chronic disease amongst our children. Over 50% of kids in America have a chronic disease right now. That's up from under 13% in the early 80s. What's changed? What has caused massive immune dysregulation to occur amongst our children? Why do I say that? Because most of the chronic diseases that we've seen exploding, asthma, you go down the list, have an etiology in being a form of immune dysregulation. Not and I've set that forth in my submission as well. So you have an explosion in chronic disease since the early 80s. Most of those chronic diseases are a form of immune dysregulation. What has changed in terms of might be causing the immune systems of our children in mass to go haywire? Well, maybe we should start by ruling out the fact that we have gone from 3 injections on the CDC schedule in 1986, the year the National Child Vaccine Draft was passed, to currently, if a child gets the full CDC schedule, follows it today, by 1 year of age, gets 29 injections, including in utero, okay? 3 to 29. And every one of those vaccines, as I mentioned earlier, was clinical trialed and licensed by a company knowing they would not be liable for design defect claims.